Good morning and welcome to Lakewood's Next Daily Devotions. My name is Scott. I'll be with you all week and we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 28 as we kind of wrap up this Gospel of Matthew this week and next week. And so I'm going to be focused on Matthew chapter 28 with you and looking at the resurrection of Jesus. But today we're going to look at just one verse. Before we kind of get into the full resurrection, we're going to look at just one verse. It says in Matthew 28, verse 1, "Now after the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb." We're just going to stop there because I don't want to miss something that I think would be easy to rush over as we get into the resurrection. I don't want to miss something that I think is significant. So if you would, just kind of imagine with me for a moment how the women, how all the disciples were feeling at this moment. Jesus had been crucified. He was dead. They'd watched him die. He was tortured. It was a very traumatic experience. And the disciples fled and they hid. And we find ourselves here the day after the Sabbath, so a Sunday morning. We find ourselves watching the women, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, they go to see the tomb. And so I want you just to think with me for a minute about how were they feeling overall. What do you think, what kind of emotions do you believe they were going through? Were they confused? Were they sad? Were they angry? What was it? All of those things. It must have been all of those things, and so I think it's important for us to think for a moment about kind of where their head is, where their heart is in this moment, and watch what they do. So it tells us that after the Sabbath, toward the dawn. So in other words, the two Marys leave while it's still dark to head out to see the tomb. What were they doing? What were they doing in this most confusing time? What were they doing in this time when they had to be upset, they had to be sad, they had to be frustrated? All of those things were going on inside of them, and here they are just before dawn. On the day after the Sabbath, they leave to go to the tomb. And what I think is important about that is this. I think maybe you and I can catch a little bit of a glimpse into something that we can grab onto in our own life sometimes when things are hard, when things are confusing, when things are frustrating, when things do not make sense. What do? Well, maybe we should do what we see the women doing here, and that is, very simply, do what you know to do. Do what you know to do. When things don't make sense, do what you know to do. And what did they know to do? They knew to serve. They knew to go, and in those days you would go after the body's been buried and you would go and anoint with spices and rewrap the body and all of that kind of stuff in order to take care of. They were doing what they knew to do. And they did that the whole weekend, honestly. On the Sabbath, what did they do? They did the same thing that they would always do on the Sabbath, which would be not much. They would worship, they would pray, they would do those kind of things on the Sabbath. And so they didn't break their tradition. They did what they normally do on the Sabbath. And then as soon as the Sabbath was over, they went to take care of Jesus' body. I think it's so important for you and I to see that they were just simply doing what they knew to do, even when things don't make sense. So if that's you today, maybe you're at a season in your life where things don't make a lot of sense. I would just encourage you, do what you know to do. Give God time to work. Do what you know to do and let God come through for you.